Well, hi, welcome back to Women on the Frontline International Fellowship. I am your host, Apostle Dr. Sonia Stinson. I am so glad that you're tuning in this week for our live TV broadcast. As always, I try to bring you exciting and new shows and introduce you to new women who are on the front line. Always excited to have and meet new women who are doing kingdom work. And today in our studios, I have Prophetess Deborah Campbell-Smith, awesome woman of God. Met her through my graphic designer, Sherry Buchanan. I have been following her for more than a year. An awesome, well-versed, seasonal woman of God. And I wanted to introduce you to her in this 2018 year because I just believe that 2018 is a year of opportunity and a year where God's going to do some things that's going to blow our mind, and we have to get ready. And women are really taking their position in the kingdom. And so welcome, Prophetess Deborah Campbell-Smith. I am so glad that you accepted our invitation to come and be interviewed on this show. God bless you. And when I saw you, as we talked earlier before the show, we talked about how did I meet you, and I just told you that I just really do a lot of research on my people that I would like to interview. And one of the things that drew me to you were a couple of things is the Master's Touch.
Yes.
I love the name of your church.
Yes.
Talk about the Master's Touch.
Well, Dr. Stinson, the Master's Touch was birthed out of a place of pain.
Okay.
During that time, I had been pastoring, co-pastoring with my husband for 17 years.
Wow.
We went through a horrible divorce.
Okay.
And I was broken and shattered. And one thing that I can say the divorce does, it leaves you with an identity crisis.
Oh, God. Yes.
Because you know what you was there. So I was broken and I was bitter because I married at 19. And I said, God, I'm no longer his wife. So who am I?
Wow.
He said, Deborah, I called you from your mother's womb. It wasn't predicated on him. I said, yes, Lord, but my whole life catered to that ministry. And we raised up sons and daughters. And after going through the divorce, I was so bitter because I felt like, God, how did you allow this to happen?
When you going to put that in the book?
I'm working on it.
Okay. All right.
Cries of a First Lady.
Okay, go
Yes.
ahead. Okay.
Because, we as women of God, we get in it. We put ourselves totally into the ministry with our spouses, our husbands at that time. And I was senior administrator. We were up under Apostle John Eckhart at the time. And one thing I love about God, he said, I will do nothing until I reveal my secrets to my servants, the prophets. And I'm a dreamer. And God has always dealt with me in dreams. And he dealt with me in a dream. And in this particular dream, we were in high worship. And we had did our first CD. And as we were worshiping the Lord, in the dream said, open your eyes. And as I began to open my eyes, I saw men in there doing gang signs. And when I realized that they had our front line at gunpoint, and they walked up in the pulpit and they took my husband and they began to walk him out of the pulpit, and all the front line was looking at me saying, do we attack? We're armor bearers. And I was shaking my head. I said, no, it's too many people in here. Someone will get hurt. And they took him down the front aisle and out the door at gunpoint. And I woke up. And I told my husband at the time, I said, the enemy is coming. And he's coming for you. And he said, oh, get the intercessors. We need to pray. And la, la, la. I said, yes. And as we did that, 1 year to the date, the storm came down.
Wow.
And God gave me a message. I went to Port Huron to preach for Apostle Vita Nichols.
Yes.
And while I was on that plane, God spoke to me. He said, Deborah, I built you with a storm in mind.
Deborah.
And at that time, I thought, oh, wow. I can't imagine, you built me with a storm in mind. That sounds good. But the storm hadn't come down yet. And 1 year later, that storm came down. And God said, this is the storm that I built you for.
Wow.
And I was broken. my children were broken because we were on the radio getting ready to do television.
Wow.
We're on right behind Apostle Shackelford. Then we were Temple of Praise. We Are Victorious is what our broadcast was called. And I was so broken, and I hadn't worked in 17 years, and not because I didn't want to, but he said, I don't want you to work. I always told God I want to take care of my wife. And I thought, wow, but you really don't make a lot of money. God said, submit to it. And I kind of wrestled with it. And after my second born son, God fixed it where I couldn't go back to work. So we submitted to that, and God blessed us greatly. We had our own building out in Argyle Gardens.
Oh, okay.
And we was getting ready to buy a mall complex. God was just blessing. And that storm came down. And I tell you, Dr. Stinson, the brokenness that I felt, 2 worlds was broken. My marriage and family, and then the ministry split. And not only did it collide and shatter, but I'm a family person.
Yeah.
And my children, they were beginning to do things in ministry. My son was a drummer. My daughter was going through dancing at a dance studio with our dance team. And her teachers would hear us on the radio and say, I heard your dad on the radio. I heard your mom on the radio. And all of that fell down. The Bible said our carcass fell in the wilderness. I was so broken. And I remember saying to the Lord, I said, I don't understand. He said, the dream.
Wow.
And I remember telling my ex-husband at the time, my husband, I said, honey, this is the dream. I said, the enemy is taking you. Don't fall for this. And he just, and he started, his started with a hurt, a ministry hurt. And after he was hurt from that particular relationship, it started entwining in ours.
Dwindling him down.
Yes. And
opened up for the enemy.
Yes. And I remember him saying, you know, he was in our bedroom. We had just bought our dream home in Country Club Hills. Coco Taylor was our neighbor. And I would hear him go. We had big walk-in closets, and he would go and I would hear him pray. And this particular morning, early, I heard him in the closet praying, and he began to say, I hate him, Lord. I hate him. And I said, oh, he's in trouble. And this was not his character. And after he kind of came, I said, honey, you know, that's not good. And he was so hurt over this relationship. He felt that he had been betrayed, and that opened the door to the next step. Then he started saying, I married the wrong woman. And I thought, you got to be, what? He said, yeah, I married the wrong woman. I said, no. And I thought, matter of fact, we were with Dr. Shackelford. We had went to Dr. Hillard's conference.
Yes.
And we were down there, and I started noticing him slowly changing. And when we got home, it looked like it just fell. And I thought, what happened? And, you know, he just said, well, I don't know. I just feel I married the wrong woman. And I said, God, this is the dream. And just to go through the story, different ones tried to work with us in counsel, but his mind was set. He wanted out.
Yes.
And I thought, this is demonic.
Yes.
This is demonic to the core.
Yes.
And I remember one morning, I had a dream. And in the dream, I went to the mailbox, and the divorce papers was in there. Wow. I woke up. I said, let me go to the mailbox. I went outside to the mailbox, and they were there. And I said, okay, God. I said, now I must do what I have to do. And we started the divorce, and I mean, God phenomenally blessed us. And I remember saying to him, I said, you know, I don't want to fight with you. It's hard to fight someone you love.
That's right.
I said, but I will protect me and the kids at all costs. And at that time, he returned back to work. He was working at Christ Hospital at the time because he had retired, and we both was full-time in ministry. And in that, I was able to be compensated with child support and alimony. but I still didn't know how I was going to live. And I became bitter, and I began to cry out to God. I said, God, I don't understand you. And God said to me, he said, Deborah, you don't believe I love you. I said, no, Lord, love wouldn't do this. I said, my natural father would not allow this to happen to me. And I remember God saying to me, he said, Deborah, I'm going to prove my love to you.
Wow.
I was so bitter, Dr. Stinson, because everything that I had built had been torn down.
I know.
And I said, God, you don't build ministries overnight.
I know. Yeah.
And all of this was crumbling, and I was watching my children break. And I remember saying to God, I said, Lord, both of us can't live in this earth realm. Somebody has to go. And it's not going to be me. And God just kept on working with me. And what I love so much about God, even when my heart was so torn, he knew how to keep speaking to me.
Wow.
God knows how to speak to us in a language we understand.
Yes, he does.
And my language was dream world, because all I do is lay my head on the pillow and he starts talking.
You are such a awesome. We need about a couple hours with you. Okay. But you are such an awesome woman of God. And, I was drawn to you because of your dreams and the prophetic. And, you know so much about the seasons and the Hebrew and the Jewish calendar. And that's how I ended up following you. I said, okay, she really got it down, because everything that you was talking about was in my spirit, but I had to learn how to articulate it. And some of the writings that you put on Facebook and things like that, you helped me articulate what, but I never would have imagined that the brokenness that you had to come through, the transition. And so you said you were broken. I don't think we're gonna get to your resume, but we're gonna try, okay?
Yes.
The brokenness as a female pastor, and I can imagine you were the type of wife that I was when I experienced brokenness. I did everything. My family was my life, no matter church I took care of the church, but I took care of my husband.
Yes.
And when that time of divorce and separation, I too was broken. I handled it a little different because our ministry started with the outreach in the Matthew House. And I'm thinking, when I'm married, I'm gonna be in it forever. Okay.
Yes, that's,
for me, it's death do us part.
Yes,
that's the death do us part.
Yes.
And just to sit here across from you and to hear that you were broken, but I really want the audience today to know, how did God heal you from that And I know it wasn't overnight, and I know there's still some things that you made God take you through. Can you share a little bit with us about, especially for the women out there?
Dr. Stinson, one of the things that I say profoundly, that healing, I had to sit down. Now, some people was telling me, well, you need to just keep doing this. You need to keep preaching. I said, I am bleeding.
Wow.
And I need help. And I sat down for 2 years. I sat down at the Apostle.
So you sat down.
Yes.
You did not try to do things while
broken.
You were bleeding, because if you were bleeding, you was gonna bleed on everybody else.
Yes. And that's dangerous to a prophet. And one of the things that, like I said, the divorce is when God said he created, it was void and without, my life became void and without shape, because now I had to be recut for something else.
Wow.
And during that time, I sat down, and because I was bitter.
And how did that sitting down feel? I mean, because you sat down, and like you said, voices said, you need to be doing this, you need to be doing that. But
I had ministry gifts telling me that.
had ministry gifts, ministry people, knowing that you had bleeding and you were bleeding, and you recognized through your dreams what God said, you can't bleed on everybody else. I'm going to sit you down.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Because, being broken, and I was bitter. One, because I trusted this man. You were taking care of me. Now I don't have a job. Now I have to take care of me and my kids. And I was determined, I'm not going home to my mom with 3 kids. I said, God, I've lived for you. I've given myself to you. And God said, Deborah, I got you. But I was so bitter. And I remember saying to God, I don't want to do ministry anymore. I don't want to do anything. I just want to die. Oh my God. But I tell you, God began to just start shining his light on me. But the first thing he did, he gave me another dream.
Wow.
And in this dream, we're at a hospital, and my husband was there, and the doctor said, "You're getting ready to have a big baby." And I said, "I am?" I said, "All my children were 7 pounds and under." He said, "Yes, but not yet." And he pulled me into another room. And when he took me in that room, my husband walked in. And I said, "What are you doing here?" God said, "You can't birth out nothing new until you deal with this."
Wow. So you had to deal with the hurt and
had
the pain.
to. I remember,
him.
yes, we were at a conference with prophetess Jackie Rhines, and she was ministering to me, and we laugh about this today. She was saying, "Let it go, let it go," and I was saying, no, I don't want to let it go, because I know God, he's going to forgive, and then it's going to just get brushed over. I don't want to let it go.
That was your bitterness.
That was my bitterness. And I remember God said, "I want you to get up and pray for him." I said, "Oh no, I need to pray for me and my kids."
Yes.
He said, "No, this is not about you."
Yes, yes.
And I remember getting my children up because they were hurting. My daughter's born on his birthday, only daughter. My son, named after him. And I remember waking them up. I said, "We got to pray for your dad." They were like, I said, "We have to." And I began to pray, and they were just sitting there like, "You can pray if you want." I said, "We're not going to get off the floor until we pray."
Wow.
And I remember my middle son, he just quoted a song. I guess he said, "I don't really want to pray." So I remember him just saying, "Father," he would whatever song, because we wrote most of our worship songs, and he just began to quote this song. And I looked at my daughter, who was torn, and she looked at him, and she was like, "He just doing this because Mom asked us to pray." I said, "Okay, now it's your turn." And I remember her just crying, "Help my daddy, Lord. Help him, Lord. He's not himself." Until all of us started breaking. That was the beginning of my healing.
My theme, out of the shadows.
Yes. Then I had to work. I said, "God, I don't know where to begin." I've been in church since I was 15. I don't know nothing about the secular world. I know what I can do in ministry. And when I tell you, woman, God had me. I had preached somewhere, and then they said, "I'm going to bring you in." I said, "But I don't know." I had 3 secretaries. I said, "I don't know anything about computers." They did the work, And she said, "But I'm going to bring you in and train you." That don't happen, but God. And I started that particular job, and I didn't want nobody to know I was no pastor's wife. I wanted to come in. I want nobody to know me.
You want to be undercover. You didn't want to be, but God didn't brought you.
And I was like, "Peter, they kept saying there's something about you, your speech. I mean, you're different." I said, "Okay." And when they went to work, I would walk down State Street and cry. Just crying. "God, I can't." I said, "The only reason I want to live is because can't nobody tell my 3 children about you like I can." And as I was walking down State Street, God spoke to me. He said, "Deborah, I got you among people, touching people." I said, "God, how can I touch people? I'm broken. I don't want to tell them who I am. What am I doing here?" God said, "I'm doing something new in you." And he spoke to me. He said, "I got you among people, touching people." And I was at work, and I would be at the coffee, getting some coffee, and people would just start talking to me, and my prophetic was, and I would start saying, and they was like, "Well, I need to talk to you. I heard you was a preacher." And I'm like, "Yes." And after God spoke it, I wrote it down. I said, "God, you got me among people, touching people, but what can I tell them? I've lost everything." He said, "Your anointing is going to get back everything that the enemy has stolen."
Everything that the cankerworm and the locust ate up, he says, "I'm going to give it back to you.
And I stayed there with my walking on my lunch. And he said, "You're among people, touching people, and you're going to touch them with the master's touch."
Wow.
And from that moment, I began to see the light. It was a little bit, but I saw it. And people just kept coming around talking. Then they found out I was a dreamer. My bosses would take me in conference room and said, "Hey, I heard you was a dreamer. Can I share a dream with you?" From the elite, I was interpreting dreams and giving them what God said. I started a Bible study. That's what birthed the Master's Touch. I went to our management team, I said, I want to start an enrichment class. Because, we couldn't say Bible study.
Right.
I said, I want to start an enrichment class because we got people here from all walks of life. And I believe they need spiritual enrichment to stay focused to do the job here. And they said, why not? They gave me a conference room. They would set it up every Friday. And we birthed out the Master's Touch. We were among people, touching people. Dr. Stinson, I tell you, I would be teaching and prophesying. They was falling out. And I was like, come on, baby, get up. We only got 1 hour. We got to go back to work. I said, we got 1 hour to do this. I said, y'all got to get up. We got to go back to work. But we birthed the ministry out through that Bible study. And I said, okay, that's good. I was getting a little comfortable with that. I could do this. And God said, Deborah, years ago, I told you, because I kept me in my heart, I said, why don't we feel at home anymore? He said, because I'm making you a home.
Wow.
He said, Deborah, I didn't take that word back. He said, I'm making you a home and leaders will find rest. And I said, but Lord, I'm so broken. Tradition, I have my doubts in the tradition. The culture that we lived in, it's a man thing. It's a man's world. It's a man's world, right. And growing up, I did in Church of God in Christ. And, we were just different cuts. You could be an evangelist, you be but you couldn't be a teacher, but you didn't do all of that. And of course, our ministry was non-denomination, so we left and we was non-denomination. But I had my reluctance and doubts because of tradition. And God said, Deborah, I've invested too much in you. And as we began to tell God yes, I remember when I lost my dream home, and Apostle, I will never forget, Apostle Eckhart had prophesied. He said, Deborah, you're going to get a home again. And I said, oh, he's just saying that so I don't kill my husband. But today I got that home. But 1 month after I got the home, and just to back it up real quick, we were praying for my husband, praying, releasing the bitterness and praying. And 1 month to the day I bought my home. We were out in Aurora for 2 years. And I got there and I felt a knot in my breast.
Yes, I want to talk about survival from breast cancer. God has really dealt with you.
Oh my God, I tell you, because my passion is investing in people. And my passion is I'm a survivor of not just breast cancer, divorce, because you have to survive these things.
Yes, you do.
And so many people, I tell people, you got to heal, but you got to heal right.
That's right.
And that was the purpose of sitting down, because if you don't heal right, those bones got to be broken again and reset. And I said, I don't want to go through that. I want to heal right, Lord. Whatever it takes to heal right, I want it. So that setting down time allowed me to heal right, so that I was being cut and carved to do the work of the ministry again.
Talk about your breast cancer.
After finding that lump in my breast, a numbness came on me. I said, God, you got to be kidding. God spoke to me. He said, Deborah, this sickness is not unto death. And woman of God, if I could tell you a peace fell on me, I can't explain to you today. Wow. I said, Lord, had this peace been on me with that divorce, I wouldn't be sick because I was so angry. But a peace fell on me. And I remember sitting down with my children. I said, I said, I'm going to live and not die.
Yes.
But I began to tell them about this is the policy, and I got this. I said, because, we plan, and sometimes things don't always work out the way we plan. I said, but I'm a jump, and I plan to land on my feet. And I began to tell my daughter, who is the oldest, she was crying, no, Mom, no. I said, no. You got to know these things, just in case something don't go the way we plan. But today I'm here 15 years later.
15-year breast cancer survivor.
15 years.
Look at God.
And the phenomenal thing, woman of God, was that I had the most aggressive type of cancer. And the doctor said to me, he said, we're going to go in. He said, and they went in, and he said, it went to your lymph nodes. He said, but the amazing thing, he said, they begin to explain, he said, it's like bowling balls, the rows. He said, on the front row, it only went to the second ball. It didn't go down the line, and it didn't go behind. And they said, you couldn't have a better diagnosis. I did chemo for a whole year and radiation. But during that time, it was a time with me and God, but there was a peace. Paul said that surpasses all understanding.
Right.
Nobody but God could have set that up like that. But even in the midst of that, God started doing some things. He said, I just don't want to heal you, Deborah, but I got to heal the children.
Oh, wow.
Because they were broken. My daughter was looking for love in all the wrong places. She had a father issue. And God said, I have to heal that. And I said, well, yes, Lord, I agree with you. He said, but I'm going to need you to cooperate with me. Wow. My husband did all the cooking. He was an immaculate cooker.
Okay.
I got my home. God said, I want you to invite him over to cook. I said, oh, God, you got to be kidding.
God got a big sense of humor.
You got to be kidding.
Yes.
After all, I owe him nothing. I cried and wrestled. I said, okay, God, you got something better, bigger, greater than I'm looking at. And I told him, I said, you know, you're a better cook than me because you did all the cooking. I said, but I need you to come over and cook. And he said, sure. But what God was doing, unbeknown to me, he was healing my 3 children's heart. Because they knew if my mom can do this,
right,
I gotta know mom's God. Because they told me we don't. And that's what y'all want to do. We don't want to do it. And in allowing him to come, we was just friends, just showing them. Because I said 2 people's gonna remain the same. I'm gonna always be mom. He's gonna always be dad. And I thought we were gonna reconcile. I waited 5 years, and then God released me. But in that time, something was happening in my children's heart. God said, I'm healing them through you because they know if my mom can forgive him and entreat him the way she is, I want to know God. Today, all 3 of my children are with me in ministry.
Look at God.
But I believe it was because I trusted him. It didn't feel good.
I can imagine it didn't.
It didn't feel good. I said, God, you're making me look like a fool here. But I want to be a fool to win souls for Christ. Wow. Because I told the devil years ago, I didn't have no kids for you. I had kids for the Lord.
Wow. So your story is phenomenal, and it's just fascinating. And prophetess, you know, you talk about dreams and things like that. And my engineer is giving me some minutes, and I'm saying, oh my God, we haven't even got to the first third of the resume. But I want you to take time, because you've said so much too. I was broken and hurt. Yes. We have about 3 minutes, and you have about 2 minutes of that to talk into that camera and talk to somebody else that's hurting. And invite them to the Master's touch.
Amen. One of the things I want to say, that brokenness is real. It's real. And one of the things that God taught me and I've learned, and on my website, www.themasterstouchchurch.org, I have a message out there. And I have a message out there that teach you how to weather your storm. And one of the things God taught me about weathering a storm, see, you weather storms from the inside out because it's inside. And one of the things that God taught me going through that storm is that, first of all, to master your storm, you have to be accountable to someone, you have to submit, and you have to get in your word. And not just get in your word. The Lord taught me, he said, Deborah, you have to speak the word with your mouth. And I began to say the words, speak the word out of my mouth. And I began to connect, because connection is so important to brokenness. Because when you alone, the shades are down. But when you begin to connect to men and women of God, it lifts the shades up and allow the light to begin to shine in. And the purging begins. So that process is not overnight, but it's a process that you need help in. Because see, when you're in a pit experience, nobody gets out of a pit alone.
We want to thank her. We could be listening to her all day long. Listen, thank you for tuning in to Women on the Frontline International Fellowship. It has been an honor for both of these women of God. Listen, I'll see you next week. Contact us, www.Sonia Stinson Ministries. I will see you next week. You will see more of Deborah and more of Tracy in the coming months. God bless you.